In this section, we're going to look at how to manage the SharePoint Managed Metadata Term Store using Metalogic's Essentials for Office 365. So to begin with, I'm going to provide some context as to what the Managed Metadata Term Store is and why it's useful. So I'm going to show you the term store in SharePoint. So I'm going to go down to my Meta1 site collection in my demo tenant, right click on it and choose View in the browser. So that will load that site. Now I'm going to click on Settings, Site Settings, and on the left here, click on Term Store Management. And this will open the Managed Metadata Term Store. So what the Managed Metadata Term Store is a centrally managed group of terms that you can use to tag content in your SharePoint environment. And why this is useful is that you can make a change to a term set here and it will be available then throughout the site where that managed metadata term set is being used. So it's easier to show you this by showing you an example. So within the term store here, I have created a term group called Meta1 and then a term set within that called Meta Country. And then there are 4 terms for countries: Bulgaria, France, Ireland, and the UK. So I'll go now to somewhere where this term set is being used. So I go to the finance site and go to confidential documents. You'll see all the documents within this library have been tagged with a meta country, in this case Bulgaria. Now if I go to edit one of these documents metadata, it appears here and I click edit all. You'll see down under meta country we have Bulgaria, and then we have this symbol that shows it's a managed metadata term. So if I click on that, you'll see I'm now able to select a country from the list available. So I can select Bulgaria, France, Ireland, or the UK. So let's change this to France. There we go, and click OK. So remember there were 4 terms there. Now if I go back to the term store, select meta country and click create term and type in a new country like Germany. There we go. That term will now be available on all of the libraries and lists where they've been associated with that term set. So if I go back to my library here, now I click on again to change this term. You'll see that Germany has now appeared in the list. So anywhere this term set is used throughout the site, Germany will now be available. So that's why it's super useful and super handy. The other thing, or the other reason it's useful and handy is that, for example, this field meta country, I can only tag with these countries here. I can't make up my own one. So I can't put maybe instead of the UK, maybe England. That won't accept that term because it's not in the term set, and I've configured the term set so that it doesn't accept new terms. So you don't get people tagging things ambiguously with different names for the same type of thing, like for example a car, a vehicle, an automobile. There's another example. So that's what the term sets are and how we use them. So now let's look at how we can manage them using Essentials for Office 365. So if I go back to Essentials, I can view a term set by either right-clicking on a site or site collection, going down to Objects and going to Show Term Store, or I can also click on the Term Store Manager tab, select the site collection and simply click Manage, and that will show me the term store for that particular site or site collection. So if I expand this one out here, it's the same one we were working with in the browser just now, and I expand out Meta1 and Meta Country. You see that we have all the terms from the Meta Country term group, including the one I've just added, the Germany term. So from here, there's some things we can do straight away. We can create new terms. So I can click Create Term, and I can create a new term and call it maybe the Netherlands. I can add a description, and I can also add some synonyms and click Finish. And that term will now be created in the Managed Metadata term set, and also now available in SharePoint. So once again, if I just flick back to SharePoint, again, click on the tags here, you'll see that the Netherlands is now available in that term set. we can also bulk create terms. So if I select meta country there and click bulk create, I can enter multiple terms and descriptions for each of these terms on the line below. So let's enter maybe Spain, and let's think of another country, Belgium. Yep. And then when I click finish, those two terms will be added to the meta country group. There they are, Belgium and Spain. So from here we can also delete terms. So I can right click on a term and delete it from the term set should I wish. And I can also edit an existing term. So I could edit maybe the Netherlands and add a different description, or add some synonyms, or indeed change the name. So we can create, read, upload, and delete. So next, let's look at how to migrate managed metadata. So for this example, I'm going to switch to my server, which is running an instance of SharePoint 2013 on premises, and I can also connect to my Office 365 tenant from here. So I've loaded already into the navigator my SharePoint 2013 instance. So now if I go down to a site collection I've connected to, Wingtip Intranet 2013, and select that and click on Manage Term Store, that will display the term store for that site collection. There we are. So from there, I can expand out the group sets and view the terms. So a particularly interesting one is this one, Wingtip MMD. So if I expand that out, there's a list of document types, and they're all the different types of document types that have been set up for this term set. So I think that might be really useful to have in my Office 365 environment. So rather than recreate it all, I can simply right click on it and choose copy. Then I can go up to Meta 1, which is my Office 365 example site collection, click on Manage that term store. And then I can right click on it. Let's just expand it out so we see there's Meta 1 and the other term groups we've been working with. So I can right click and choose Paste Term Groups. So the term name is going to be Wingtip MMD. I can change it there if I like. I can choose to copy with children. If an existing term group exists, I could merge into that term group. I can choose to retain the GUID, and if necessary, remap users. Not necessary in this case. Okay, so I'm going to copy this with children and click on Finish. Click on Details. We can see that's now copying that term group from my SharePoint 2013 on premises instance into my Office 365 tenant. Okay, so it says term set copied successfully. Click on OK. So now you see within my Meta 1 Office 365 example, I now have the Wingtip MMD term group, term sets and terms. Now if I flick back to my local machine and go back to where I was connecting in the browser, and again just go back and look at the term sets, so I go Site Settings and go down to Term Store Management. You see Wingtip MMD is now available in my Manage Metadata term store, and I can start to use that throughout my site. So that's how to migrate managed metadata from one instance to another. Another thing I can show you is how to compare term sets. So again, if I select my 2013 on-premises site collection and my Office 365 site collection and go up and click Live Compare on the Term Store Manager tab, that's going to show me a comparison of the term stores between those two locations, so you can see what the differences are. So now the comparison is complete, I can expand out the term store in Meta 1, and it will show me the differences between that and the Wingtip term store. So for example, these three groups, Contoso, HR, and Meta 1, don't exist in the Wingtip term store. So it's a good tool you can use to see the differences between those. You can also migrate terms using this view. So for example, if I wanted the Meta 1 term group to be available in the Wingtip term store, I can simply select it and click copy from left to right. And that will now copy the term store from the Meta one to Wingtip, where it will be ready and available to use. So now that copy is complete, the Meta 1 term set will be available in the Wingtip intranet. So if I click on Wingtip intranet and manage term store, we'll see there it is, Meta 1 with all of the countries. And all of the countries we just recently added when we were working within the term store manager. So that's how to do a live compare and also how to migrate from the live compare window. So an additional thing you can change in your term groups is the sort order. So if I expand out Meta 1, Meta country, so we have the list of countries there, currently in alphabetical order, but that might be the most desirable order for you on your site. So if I right click on the term group and go down to edit term set and go across to custom sort, here we've got two radio buttons. Use the default sort order or use a custom sort order. So if I use a custom sort order, I can then move these around and determine which appears first in the list. So I could maybe move UK up the list and the Netherlands and maybe Ireland as well. And now when I click finish and click OK, the order will have been changed. So you see there UK and the Netherlands are higher in the list than they were before. And similarly, if we look on the site, so we go to confidential documents and go and edit one of these documents. So let's go and edit the properties. We'll see that when we click on the meta country tag, the UK and the Netherlands are now much further up the list and it's no longer in alphabetical order. So that's how to change the order of the terms, mostly for convenience. If there were some terms that for a particular set were the most commonly used, you might want to position them at the top of the list. So next, let's consider how to export and import terms using Essentials. So we have two options open to us here, export and import using CSV and export and import using SKOS, which is a simple knowledge organizational system. So we'll look at each in turn. So first, let's look at exporting and importing using a CSV. So this is the native Microsoft approach when importing and exporting terms. So I'm going to select the term group Meta 1 from my manage metadata term store I have in Office 365. I'm going to click export to CSV and I'm going to place this on my desktop and click create. So that's going to create a CSV for that term group. So if I open that, you see there's the list of terms and the including the ones we created during this this demonstration. And from here I can add an additional country. So I'm going to add Estonia. And I'm going to put that as available for tagging true. And what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to change the term set name to Meta Country 1, just so when I import it, it doesn't overwrite the existing term group I have there, just for this example. So I'm going to save that now. Go back into Essentials and select Import from CSV. Select the CSV I've created. It says term set will be imported into the selected term group. Would you like to continue? And click OK. And that's going to start importing the terms from that CSV I've created. Okay, so we receive a message saying the term set imported successfully. And now if I expand out in Meta 1, you see we've got Meta Country, but also the one I've just imported, Meta Country 1, with the list of countries including Estonia, which I added to the CSV. So that's how to import and export using CSV. Using SKOS is very similar. You select a term group and click Export to SKOS, and that creates a type of file called an RTF file. And you click save, and then the process for importing that is the same as with a CSV. We select a term group and then click import from SKOS, choose our SKOS file and click create. So the advantage of using SKOS is it also saves additional information like the term synonyms, translations, and also custom properties if you have any of those within your term set, whereas the CSV doesn't. And that's how to work with managed metadata using Essentials for Office 365 Term Store Manager.